Hello, everyone, once again, to All My Best Friends Are Digital, your podcast about video games and the stories they tell. With me is my dear friend and co-host, Caitlin. How you doing, Caitlin?
I am wonderful, Mark. How are you?
No time for pleasantries. Not a word to waste, not a syllable to spare. Too many games. We must talk about video games. This is very, very important. We have our priorities firmly in place here. We're going to be talking about what we've been playing lately. We're going to talk about our retro game in our gaming opinions on old school funware GOOF, which this week is Aliens Infestation. We're then going to talk about our feature game, which is Outer Worlds 2, ripped from the headlines, as it were. And we're going to close things out, as we always do, with some shameless hyping of upcoming titles in our Shout segment. So, with all of that in mind, Caitlin, please do tell us, what have you been playing lately?
So, I have been really back into R.E.P.O again. They had a patch the day before Halloween called the Monster Update. And it added 10 new monsters, a bunch of new rooms to all the existing levels. They didn't add any new levels in this one. They added the ability to have limited communication with the remaining living robots after you have died via like this, while you're dead, you have like this charge bar and eventually it fills up and you get like a short little burst of battery energy that you can talk with or move a little bit. It's fun.
What used to happen after you died?
So in R.E.P.O, you play cute little robots called semi-bots. And
they're robots.
Yes, robots.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm learning new things all the time.
And when you die, they call it your dead head. Like the head of your robot will be there, lifeless. And now you can use this battery mechanic to possess your head and speak. It's kind of cute because if someone's talking when their battery runs out, you'll hear like old toys will go, oh, like,
yep.
It's great. And yeah, they also made it so that every level has their own unique loot to grab and sell. So that's kind of fun. Like there's a Swift Broom Academy, which is like this magic school. And, there's potions and a broom and all sorts of just fun thematic stuff for you to grab that is all worth a lot of money.
Normally, your in-game communication in R.E.P.O, is it the kind of thing that you can only talk to people that you're close to?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely proximity-based. And it's significantly more fun that way. We have played a little bit just on Discord and not use the in-game voice.
Right, the way you do in Phasmophobia.
Yes, exactly. But it's not fun because then you know when somebody's dead. And like I feel like playing with the proximity audio adds a lot to R.E.P.O. It probably adds a lot to Phas too, but I don't know. I find Phas too scary in a way that R.E.P.O is not.
Oh, Phas. That's what the people in the know call it. They call it Phas. They're
Yes.
on a first-name basis. Me and Phas, we went out to brunch the other day. After going to the Technodrome, me and Phas did.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the context of a dead robot, though,
Yeah.
does that supersede the proximity requirements? Are you carrying the dead body around? How does that work?
When you're a dead robot, your head can be picked up. And if they pick up your head and they bring you to one of the extraction points, either where loot is extracted, because there will be multiple areas where like you have to put loot into an area in order to hit some sort of threshold, and then it gets zooped up into the sky, and then you have to move to another extraction point. So you can put a head in there and it'll resurrect them once you have enough loot. Or you can bring it back with you at the very end of the level to the truck, which you need to get to in order to move on to the next level. And either the truck or the loot extraction areas will resurrect you. So you want to go find, if somebody dies, you want to find their head, pick it up. You can either put it in your cart or just carry it with you. And doing this like death communication thing can be really helpful because it can help people find you. Like there's been a few times where I'll like turn it on and be like, hey, can anybody hear me? I'm dead over here.
Because I was wondering if, like, the game that comes to mind is Among Us. If dead people had access to movement abilities or, spotting capabilities that other characters didn't. But it would appear no.
Yeah, you can move, but barely. Like, you can do this little... You get these two tiny little feet, and you can use it to do a little bunny hop. But the bunny hop is pretty weak. So it's not like you could climb up something, really. You could just move a bit to become more visible for people to see you.
Is it too super adorable?
It's pretty cute, yeah. It's a little creepy because the eyes like glow like this, kind of low battery red color. But
R.E.P.O seems to have been pretty aggressively supported.
Yeah, I mean, so it is an early access, but they've been doing some big updates. I still find it extremely fun to play. like I said, this is the monster update, so they added 10 new monsters. And not everybody has probably played it, so I don't want to spoil what all the monsters are, but I do want to mention one in particular, my personal favorite. It is a little white puppy named Elsa, and she runs up to her chosen victim and barks at them and begs for pets. And if you don't pet her, something happens.
She can be kept at bay with pets.
Yes, you give her some pets, and when she's satisfied, she'll trot away and go find somebody else to bother.
Interesting. Okay.
It's basically my dog.
R.E.P.O does look relentlessly charming. If it weren't in early access, I would be much more strongly tempted to do it, because it's weird. We've commented before about indie game pricing, and R.E.P.O was definitely very, very popular. And so in my head, for no good reason, I assumed it was kind of a $30 indie game instead of like a $10 indie game, which is what it actually is. And It is wild the extent to which it's being supported. Is there any indication of early access jank, or from your perspective, is it basically a finished product that keeps getting supported?
It feels like a pretty finished product to me.
Wild.
Like the main feature that they don't have is a field of view setting. So I do still have to use a mod in order to override the in-game field of view to make it bigger so that I don't want to barf. But
yep.
Hopefully they add that someday. Maybe by the time they get their 1.0 release.
One hopes. I mean, but then again, as we've commented before, even a lot of AAA releases don't have field of view sliders.
Yeah.
It's kind of hit or miss. Thank goodness for the modding community who are willing to step into that breach and take care of it. R.E.P.O does look absurdly cute.
It's super cute. One day, assuming it ever has a 1.0 update, I will bother you to play it with me.
I think it is telling that you are willing to play R.E.P.O on its own terms, but would rather play Phasmophobia and other games, quote-unquote, against the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
The kind of environment, the kind of atmosphere, the kind of tension that R.E.P.O wants to generate is what you want, and you're willing to do things on those terms. Although, as I remember, that having been said, your modding experience with R.E.P.O, you do change the loot dynamics as well, as I recall. You do make the game easier.
I used to. I don't do that anymore. The only mod that I use is the field of view mod, mostly.
Wow. Then I guess you really are buying what R.E.P.O is selling.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes R.E.P.O work for me, where Phas works not as well, is the humor and how cute the robots are. And so it doesn't, yes, sometimes I am startled by the monsters. I have been known to scream into the mic, but it's so adorable and it is so funny. Like they have so much like cute quality of life stuff, or not even quality of life, like just small details that I think are really great. Like when somebody is talking, all the other bots, their little eyes will like turn over and look at the person who's talking. And it's such a small thing, but it's amazing design because it looks so cute and it makes them feel more like, they're in the world. And I don't know, I like it a lot.
All right, you've convinced me, Caitlin, that at the very least I need to watch a YouTube video of these robots interacting with each other.
Okay, sounds good.
To really get a sense. Because the trailer they've got going on the Steam page is this weird FMV game engine hybrid thing, and I'm not down for that.
Oh.
All that I want in a trailer is expertly cut gameplay footage. That's it. I'm not interested in anything else. I do not want to see the designer's actor friends get up in cosplay and act around in whatever. The only exception to this I'm willing to grant in terms of promotional material was that time that Brian Cox got hired by Bandai Namco to explain the backstory of Tekken. That deserves an Academy Award. It's amazing. Because you know that someone is a truly talented actor when they're able to make that garbage sound compelling.
The most recent one is their trailer for the Monster update. And yeah, that looks like it's all actors.
Boo.
That's okay.
Cute robots
I will send
only.
you some footage with cute robots.
That is great. I would be very happy to see it.
What have you been playing lately, Mark?
Okay, many of our listeners have been suggesting Ball Pit to me.
Yes.
And I can assure you, I was on Ball Pit when it released. Because it was on Game Pass. And for what it's worth, just as a note, I'm just flagging this. I am told that the designers say Ball Pit. But it is written Ball X Pit in all caps with the exception of the X. No spaces often. So it's weird. It's an orthographic nightmare. But unlike the architectural innovation that I've been relentlessly proposing to my wife for years that we install into our house with no success, Ball Pit is a video game with an X in the middle of it. So the reason why I was super enthusiastic about Ball Pit is because on paper, this is the game for Mark to an appalling degree, almost, because it is basically a breakout-style game. People are perhaps more familiar with the game Arkanoid as popularizing the breakout genre, with twin-stick shooter elements and a roguelite structure. I adore twin-stick shooters, and I love breakout-style games. I can still remember, it's one of my earliest video game memories. We're at a restaurant somewhere, and there was a bar-top version of Arkanoid, and I was immediately captivated. I love breakout-style games. I don't know how long ago this was. This was definitely before I had any home consoles, definitely before I had any regular access to video games. So all my earliest video game memories are of arcades and of arcade systems, and one of them is definitely of the original Arkanoid. I remember the music. I remember the silly little kind of intro that it's got about explaining how it's kind of a ship. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Arkanoid. Love me some Arkanoid. So when Ball Pit was released, I'm like, yeah. I don't like Ball Pit very much. And I'm somewhat disappointed. It's more or less the same reason why I'm somewhat disappointed in Drift Survivor 2. This is a survivor's game. It doesn't feel much like a twin-stick game. It doesn't feel much like a shooter. It doesn't feel much like a breakout-style game. It feels far more like a survivor's game, because what you do is you get these upgrades, you're filling the screen with noise, you're doing tremendous amount of damage, and a screen full of enemies, and all kinds of abstracts away from itself. Like, for example, some of the upgrades you get are for new kinds of balls that your character will emit at regular intervals. And this isn't falling into the trap of a lot of games of this ilk where the classic example of plus 3% to crit, whatever. No. These are substantive upgrades. But that doesn't necessarily make them all interesting. Like, for example, I'm not very far into Ball Pit at all. Again, QV, I'm not particularly entranced by it, but you might have a ball that inflicts burn, or it might inflict poison, or it might inflict bleed. Should I care about the difference between these three? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it's just damage over time, so whatever. And it all just kind of, balls are bouncing all over the place, and yes, you're incentivized to have the ball be quote-unquote caught by your character, because that reduces the cooldown time in effect, right? If it sails past you, then you have to wait for the ball to hit the bottom of the screen and then bounce back up, and it will hoover back to your character eventually through automagnetism. But no matter how far you are up the screen, if you can bounce the ball off of a baddie and catch it immediately, it's going to fire back much, much faster than if you fail to catch it on the initial rebound. So positioning matters more than some Survivors type games, but we're talking about a pretty constrained depth of field to begin with. You know, a given level of Ball Pit starts out pretty narrow. It widens as the level progresses and things get more difficult. But broadly speaking, you're not going to be spending too much time on the top half of your screen, and you're not going to be spending too much time on the extremities. And so what happens is there's a whole bunch of enemies and a whole bunch of balls flying over the place, and you're gathering up some crystals and some money. And it's like, yeah, I've been here a million times before. I've done this a million times before. It doesn't feel like a twin-stick shooter. It doesn't feel much like a breakout-style game. It feels far more like Vampire Survivors. And that left me very, very disappointed, because I love riffing on established ideas. And I was hoping that some of these gameplay elements would help differentiate it for me, and for me, it hasn't. Despite the fact that a lot of people really, really like themselves some Ball Pit. I think some of it is the rudimentary base management that really gets people excited. I'll admit that it's cute. It's a cute little conceit. So you get gold, you get resources, you buy things that generate resources, your standard real-time strategy ladder of buildings. I get the gold to plant the field to get the wheat that allows me to build the building that gets me more gold that allows me to whatever and all that stuff. But a lot of your meta progression is gated behind this stuff. So the way you get new character classes, is you build the appropriate building. The way you trigger these buildings, though, is kind of cute. Every class that you've unlocked is a tiny little worker at the bottom of your base, and whenever it's time to harvest resources, which you can do once per run, basically, you then launch them as though they themselves were balls in a breakout-style game.
Right.
And anything they hit, they harvest. It's like, okay, that's cute. I thought it was neat until it came time to build buildings. Because you work to get the gold, you work to get the resources, you work to get the blueprint. The blueprint is typically the reward you get from a boss, and that's how they gate meta progression that way. But then, in order to build the damn thing, you have to hit it a number of times with your workers.
Right.
The first time I did this, I very luckily managed to have them ricochet and bounce off, and I was able to complete the building in one harvest sequence.
Hmm.
The next building I built, I wasn't able to do that, and I felt like I had just been robbed. I felt not entirely like I felt the other day when you told me that Dispatch was only going to have 8 episodes, not 10. I felt like I'd been robbed of 2 episodes of Dispatch. Similarly here in Ball Pit, because I didn't direct my little dudes in the right direction, I feel like I've been robbed of my meta progression, and I have to go do another run before I get to finish this building. But the next run I wanted to do was with the new character that I'm going to get from the new building, so ugh.
Yeah, my husband had exactly the same complaint about the base building stuff. He was like, there's probably some ideal way to do it so you can get everything as quickly as possible, and I'm not doing it right, and therefore it just feels bad.
It is another gate to meta progression that feels strange. It's like it's keyed to this bizarre sub minigame that isn't even especially satisfying because you get one shot at it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then they're off running around doing nothing instead of pinging off your building and collecting your stone for you. It's kind of novel, but it's not fun. I don't approve of it at all. And I gotta say, there's probably somebody there that really, really wanted a rudimentary kind of base building. Like someone who looks at Cult of the Lamb and says, nah, that's too much. And maybe it's like, can it be on a much, much smaller scale and much more gimmick related? And Ball Pit's like, hold my ball. And that's the way it is. I'm sure that some people think that it adds to the formula, but I gotta say, I really feel that Ball Pit is less than the sum of its parts. And I would much rather play one of the games that it is aping than what it's actually doing. Because it has all the same kind of soporific effects of your Survivor genre. Which led me to believe, Caitlin, because although I am not a journalist, and we don't do journalism here, and all my best friends are digital, I nonetheless wanted to do some soul-searching and some discovery about my favorite human being, which is to say me. And I'm like, am I just done? Because it's possible I'm just done with Survivor-style games. Like, that's it. Like, it's been a while since I've really enjoyed one. Maybe you just finished. Maybe you just don't want to do this anymore. The other big Survivor-style game that is dominating the headlines is Megabonk. So I'm like, okay, I'll download your demo, Megabonk. You win. I'll give you a try. And I've been delighted. Granted, I've only played the demo because I'm such a cheapskate that it's hard to extract $10 from me when Game Pass exists. But I really enjoyed the demo and it was instantly charming. And despite the fact that structurally speaking, Megabonk does far less to the Survivors formula in a lot of ways than Ball Pit does. It's just the way they put the parts together and the way they hybridize it with a variety of 3D elements, now incredibly crude 3D elements, somehow invigorated the formula for me far more than Ball Pit did. So I am strongly considering buying me some Megabonk because of how pleased I am with the way that it shakes up the formula and how disappointed I was that Ball Pit did. So it turns out I still have some enthusiasm for the Survivors type of game, and what Megabonk does it far more successfully for me than Ball Pit. So I was very disappointed in Ball Pit. I thought it could be my next sort of idle obsession, but alas, I just don't find it very engaging, and in some instances, I just find it downright frustrating.
Yeah, I know that my husband was saying, because I haven't played it yet, but he, despite many complaints, 100%ed it on Steam, because that's what he does. But he was saying that he didn't like that it felt like, you know, if he really wanted to get a building, he should just do the bare minimum, die in order to get back, you know, and that just doesn't feel like a fun loop.
Agreed. I occasionally have that temptation with Hades 2 on very rare occasions, but Hades 2 at least does the clever thing of whenever it wants to gatekeep progress, most of the time it's not per run, it's by encounter that you satisfy. But on rare occasions it is per run, like for example, your ability to buy various social goods at the Wretched Broker. And I'm very, very low on nectar in most of the time in Hades 2, and so I'm like, why did I just keep doing these pointless runs and I'll die in the first room? And I never did, but it's not a good impulse. It's not a fun way to game the system, frankly.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, so that's Ball Pit. It's available on Game Pass. Give it a try if you're curious, but didn't do it for me. All right, we will now move on to our retro game, which is Aliens Infestation. Aliens Infestation is a game on the Nintendo DS. I have many words to say about Nintendo DS emulation, but we'll get to that later. It was published in 2011 by Way Forward Technologies, And it is a tie-in to the Aliens franchise, of course. It is kind of a Metroidvania-style game where you can't open that door because you don't have the gizmo, so you need to go find the gizmo, but you can't find the gizmo because it's locked behind a widget, and the widget can only be opened by the Whoozits, etc., etc. You know the style. We can all talk about that for days. This is on top of the more blunt versions, where it's literally, you can't operate that elevator. It's a level 3 elevator. You only have a level 2 key card, sucker. So, Caitlin, why don't you give us a rundown about Aliens Infestation?
So, I did not have time to figure out if this is real or something that the internet hallucinated.
Okay, this is complicated. It's a real game, but the events never took place. Does that make sense? Or are we going to have a deeper conversation about pretend and real?
That makes sense.
Okay.
But I had been reading that Aliens Infestation originally was going to be a DS port of Colonial Marines. And then Colonial Marines went into development hell, and the DS port was canceled, and then later everything was redone in order to just make a separate game, now called Aliens Infestation. And that is why there are similarities, like it's about Colonial Marines and that they go to the Sulaco. So anyway, I thought that was neat, but I didn't know if it was true.
It's tough to tell. I mean, both Colonial Marines and Infestation were published around the same time by the same publisher. And it's tough to tell what happens during development hell when platforms change and engines change and the whole thing. But you're right that I wasn't familiar with that particular theory or apocryphal account, but it certainly sounds plausible at least.
But anyway, so I first played and finished Aliens Infestation almost exactly 13 years ago, which I mostly know because the weekend that we are speaking right now is the Extra Life charity 24-hour gaming marathon weekend. And 13 years ago, I did my one and only Extra Life charity day. I probably would have done more, but I had a kid and then was like, sleep is precious and I require it every single night.
Sure.
But yeah, so that was the first time I played Aliens Infestation. And in Aliens Infestation, I believe it takes place after the events of Aliens and Alien 3. And the ship, the Sulaco, is just chilling in space, doing whatever it is that it does. And the Colonial Marines are sent to investigate it. The thing that drew me to Aliens Infestation originally was I thought it was really cool that there's permadeath in it. You control a squad of 4 Marines, and those Marines basically act like your multiple life bars. You have one life bar. When they die, they are dead. Or occasionally, I believe, sometimes they get kidnapped and they're locked up in some alien pod somewhere on the ship and you can find them and get them back. But mostly they're dead. You can run across other Marines that have kind of gotten separated from their teams and recruit them onto your team. So naturally, when I learned this, I created a girl squad.
Totes.
I did not do this on my recent playthrough, but I did this 13 years ago. But I reloaded if I ever lost any of the female characters. And had a lot of fun with it. There's definitely some frustrations I felt in the gameplay. But overall, I thought it was fun, very thematic. I liked the music.
Echoing what, no pun intended, what we commented in the context of Fireteam Elite, the sound really matters if you're going to get an Aliens tie-in game to work. You know, the pulse rifle has to sound like a pulse rifle. The alien has to make alien-appropriate noises, which it mostly does. I mean, the facehuggers, for some reason, sound like cats in Aliens Infestation, which is doubly unfortunate because there is also the cat.
Yes.
That shows up to give you the fake jump scares. And the music is really good, and the sound design is done really well. And circling back to that permadeath thing, I was initially thinking that I was just really bad at it. You know, I fight the first boss, and a couple Marines die, and I'm like, wow, this is...
Same.
This is really, I'm very bad. Is this game super short, or am I terrible, or both? And then I go to some Marine who previously had been like, nah, I'm just going to chill out in this room forever. And I was like, okay, you do you. And I'm like, yeah, I'll join your squad. I'm like, oh, this is how this works.
Yeah.
This is so much cooler than having a life system. And then I did some reading, and they put in the work. They did a lot of writing to make sure it works this way. I'm not going to say that the characterization is particularly interesting, and it is not the case that this is a particularly dialogue-heavy game, but they made almost 24 versions of every exchange to make sure that no matter what Marine you had doing it, there was unique dialogue to that Marine. That at least is effort I sincerely appreciate, and it helps give a little bit of texture to the game.
Definitely. Yeah, when I found that Marine and she didn't want to join me, I was like, oh, okay, I mean, sure, that's fine. Are you sure you want to stand on top of this room where below there's just like 12 alien eggs? And yeah, it's like, that doesn't feel safe to me, but okay.
No.
You know, if you're comfortable.
And let's be fair, underestimating the alien threat is very much in keeping with Colonial Marines.
Yes.
What's the worst that can happen? I've got a badass gun. Nothing can harm me. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I also really like the character designs. The graphics are really neat. It's well animated. The character portraits were done by Chris Bacalo, which is a name that I haven't heard in a long time. He was a comic artist that was very much in vogue at that time. And it looks really good. The pacing, though, is a little stodgy, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a little staid. I knew that something was up when your walking speed is super slow and there is a run button in a 2D side-scrolling game. That's not common. That is not the most frequent choice.
Yeah, the first time I started moving, I was like, where's the run button? Come on. Like, we're not doing this. And I mean, granted, walking is helpful on occasion.
Oh yeah, being able to walk, sure, yeah.
But yeah, having that that pace was a lot, or very little, as it may be.
And I have to say I was disappointed by the actual firefights. Because there's a variety of different enemy types you can encounter. The aforementioned facehuggers, alien warriors, some bosses, some different kinds of humanoid opponents, various kinds of combat synths, and actual people. And it's the combat against the humanoids especially that I found were very, very stodgy. There's this relatively early on, you start fighting UPP separatists, which is an adversary that is often mentioned in passing and like the periphery of Aliens lore. But anyway, they're here. All they do is they pop in and out of cover and fire their little pistols. And if you get hit by the pistol, you just get knocked flat on your back.
So annoying.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're too hard. I mean, yeah, you can chuck a grenade. If you've got a grenade, that'll kill them right dead. If you master the timing, you can get them either before they shoot or after they shoot, fine, whatever. It's just a little obnoxious, and it just helps to reinforce, again, my biggest critique of Aliens Infestation is that the pacing is just very stodgy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, when I mentioned some kind of downside a few minutes ago, and the main downside I was thinking of was when there's an enemy soldier opposite some cover, and I need to wait for him to pop up and shoot, and then pop up and like jump over and shoot him back or something. It's so annoying, and the way that they knock you down is extremely frustrating.
Yeah, it's definitely Chumbawamba coded.
Yes, yeah. There's also some enemies, especially the robot ones, I believe, that just seem to keep respawning constantly, and others don't necessarily seem to respawn, but that was super. It's like, I literally just cleared this room. How are you back?
Yeah, the respawns seem to be arbitrary overall. I never really had a good sense of when a room would be safe again or not. I mean, fortunately, the map system works really well. And it being a DS game, you can have the map on all the time. So let's talk about the DS-ness of it all, because as per usual, I think it's been a hot minute since we've discussed how much Nintendo loves their gimmicks.
Their gimmicks.
Granted, this is not a first-party DS game, but any DS game has to grapple with the second screen, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, in a very small subset of cases, you literally cannot play without both screens active at all time. The World Ends With You is an example. That Sonic game, where it's literally just two screens stacked on top of each other, is another. Contra 4 works the same way, right? They just treat it as one large vertical screen. Then there are games like Mario Kart, where the second screen is helpful-ish, but you really don't need it at all.
It's just information.
Precisely. It's just the overall map. And then you have something that's kind of in between, like Aliens Infestation, where the map is super useful. It's a Metroidvania, so you want to be referencing the map all the time. I, for one, love not having to pause and hit a button to consult the map. Inventory management is also handled very, very smoothly by virtue of the second screen. You literally just tap on the type of grenade you want to use, or a flare, or whatever. You tap on the weapon to reload, which is kind of cool. And then there's other core functions that you're expected to do, like cutting welded doors,
Yeah,
or
welding doors.
turning on and off your light, or things of that nature. So, long story short, is this a game that you could play without two screens? Kinda. Is this a game you could play without two screens and touch capability if you really wanted to?
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciated from the fact that I was playing it on. There's been a raft recently of new dual screen emulation devices that are meant primarily to allow you to do these things. I've been playing on my AYN Thor, which is really good for DS games, and yeah, it is definitely the case that although not strictly necessary, that extra screen is helpful.
Yeah, I would have been very annoyed if I'd had to play Aliens Infestation without having that second screen always available. Like needing to swipe away the main screen in order to see it and then click on things would have been not ideal.
Yeah, so I have to give credit where credit is due. Although it definitely makes emulation more fraught, I'm never going to blame any developer for not considering the implications of emulation for however they're going to design a game. It's one of those cases where the secondary screen isn't a burden. It's genuinely helpful. It's got information you need. They've made good use of it. They thought about how and when it could be implicated in actual gameplay, and they did a half-decent job of it. So all told, I'm very pleased with what they've done with the DS-ness of it all. It's not a touchscreen-only game. You definitely need the controls, so people want to emulate it on their phones won't necessarily have a good time of it.
Yeah.
We went from about 6 months ago having 0 devices that were particularly well-suited for emulating DS to a bunch. Magic X released something called the 040, which has a screen on its side specifically so that you could play DS games with touch capability, and now we've got the AYN Thor. I've also got a INEO Pocket DS, which is my recommendation if you can afford it. It's very expensive, but oh my goodness, it is choice. Super premium like all INEO stuff. The only reason why I didn't play Aliens Infestation on the Pocket DS was, number one, I'd already started it on my AYN Thor, and number two, the AYN Thor has a bit of a leg up in terms of emulating DS because the screens are smaller. And there's only so much you can blow up DS games before they start looking super ugly. Because the DS screens were very low resolution and usually pretty small and pretty muddy.
Yeah.
So large, contemporary, high-def screens do not make especially 2D DS games look very good. It's a whole thing. That's fair. But yeah, I really enjoyed Aliens Infestation. I thought it was kind of clever. And it does a reasonably good job with the theme. The way they handle permadeath is really cool.
Yeah.
And also helps line with the theme. Again, hearkening back to our discussion about Fireteam Elite, it's kind of weird how not deadly Fireteam Elite is. If you're gonna do an Aliens game, you expect Marines to be dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
And Aliens Infestation does a halfway decent job of representing that, unless, of course, you're a big wuss like Caitlin and want to reload every time one of your precious girl squad dies.
Yep.
See, I respect women soldiers, Caitlin, and so I'm willing to honor their
Allow
sacrifice
them to
in battle.
Sacrifice, yeah.
I don't know what kind of weird patriarchy you've got going on in your head, but don't implicate me in that.
I won't. Don't worry.
So thanks for recommending Aliens Infestation, Caitlin. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by it when I first played it 13 years ago, and playing again this last week was really fun. And I love when a game really gets the theme down, and Aliens Infestation definitely did that. Yeah.
And again, I think this is also part of the theme. When you're fighting aliens, it mostly works. When you're fighting humanoid opponents, that's where things start to get a little bit more iffy.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be too critical about that in terms of the thematic execution. I also think it's a reasonably good length. It's pretty short, which is fine. I kind of like it when my Metroidvanias are short.
Same.
Like every new thing you discover unlocks a finite number of rooms, and it just makes it easier so that you don't get lost. I really appreciated it. It was well calibrated, well focused.
Yeah. The most annoying thing about the controls to me was just having to unweld doors. I didn't love that. And I get that you can weld it shut and then the alien can't come through it as easy, or I forget exactly because I didn't actually weld any doors shut in order to prevent anything. But it was, I don't know. I didn't love that mechanic. I would have preferred if you just unweld it and...
Another opportunity to interact with the touchscreen. Again, it's not super gimmicky, but it's not totally immune from the need to implicate the touchscreen whenever possible. All right, so that was Aliens Infestation. We are now going to take a brief break for some ads. And we're back. And we're going to be talking about our feature game, which is The Outer Worlds 2 by Obsidian, put out this year. This is a sequel to The Outer Worlds 1, shockingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
It is available on Game Pass. It is full of technical issues, and Caitlin, tell us all about it.
Okay, well, Outer Worlds 2 is the story of your main character, who is a member of the Earth Directorate, and they are sent to meet up with another agent on some kind of space station. I don't remember the exact details.
Too many proper nouns.
But you're sent there, and oops, surprise, she betrays you. I guess that's technically a spoiler, but it does happen in the tutorial.
Happens in the intro mission. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I guess it's not a tutorial, but yes, the intro mission. And it explodes. You get locked into this cryo sleep container, and you're stuck there for 10 years. One of your buddies wakes up, finds you. So anyway, 10 years later, you're here, and you're here to figure out, like, hey, why did that person betray me? What's going on here? Thus starts Outer Worlds 2. Outer Worlds 2 really inspires the FOMO for me, because I understand that this is a role-playing game, and thus you should be playing a role, meaning that there's nobody out there that is good at everything, and therefore you have skills, and oftentimes you're going to run into something in Outer Worlds 2.
I don't know, man. Have you heard of Elon Musk? Apparently he's good at everything.
That's what I've heard, but I'm not sure I believe it.
I heard it from Elon Musk, and he would know.
Oh, yes, of course. You run into skill checks that you can't hit. And sure, you could try to be like, okay, well, next time I level up, I'm going to go put 2 points in that. But there's also a finite number of levels in the game. And if you don't want to be good at anything, that's fine. But you're not going to be able to hit every skill check. That's just how Outer Worlds 2 is designed. And you need to be okay with that, or you're going to have a bad time.
It is dizzying the number of times the Outer Worlds reminds you that you're not good enough to do something. So this is both this is a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
So the good part of it is I can still remember the delight of, I think it might have been the first time I really internalized it was Knights of the Old Republic, the original version on the Xbox, where I had an extra dialogue option because of a perk I'd acquired. I'm like, what, really? That's amazing. Yeah. Why would anyone take anything other than this? So I immediately would dump all my... anytime that's available in a video game, I naturally gravitate towards it. And much of the time, it is limited to 1, maybe 2 skills, and that's about it.
Yeah.
In the Outer Worlds, I think everything can offer you new dialogue options. And the experience of this is sometimes really cool because it means that the conversation proceeds according to the choices you've made and the stats you've unlocked and the various perks you've selected.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it's just reminding you of all the stuff you can't do.
Yes.
Right? No, describing it as FOMO is interesting. For me, it's like the constant drumbeat of being reminded you're incompetent. It's like the Outer Worlds 2 is just constantly reminding you, it's like, yeah, your level sucks, buddy. It's like, yeah, I know, I just started. Back off.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I don't have like all the technical skills and all the combat skills and all the whatever. And part of that is, like I say, I mean it's a double-edged sword. There are good things to it and bad things to it.
Yeah.
Part of me wishes that the game had done a slightly better job of letting me know that everything produced new dialogue options. Because they flag it in the case of the speech skill, but they don't also mention that it applies to literally everything else.
So, I mean, as you progress, you will see a number of checks that are grayed out. And when you hover over it, it'll be like, you need to have either certain perks, such as, you're brawny, or you're brilliant, or you had a certain background, like you were a criminal before joining the Earth Directorate. And it's very cool that all those things get called out. But also, yeah, every time I'm like, oh, man. In the Outer Worlds 2, I like being able to see all the different ways that certain problems could be solved. But it feels bad when you can't solve them in any of those ways.
Yes. And on top of that, it's not just dialogue options.
Yes.
Some of it dovetails. Some of it is just the old-fashioned, I want to have the points to be able to do the thing. This came in particular, with respect to another gripe that I have with the Outer Worlds 2, which is just getting from point A to point B. And sometimes it's locked behind elevators, none of which work, all of which require you to fix them. Do you have Engineering 3? Well, then you can fix this elevator. If not, sucks to be you. And part of me is sitting there thinking, it's like, well, wait, being maximally charitable, Outer Worlds 2, you're telling me kind of forget about min-maxing, kind of forget about the blunt elements of gameplay. Make the character you want, right? Yeah. Don't be so hung up. This is not the Elder Scrolls. You don't have to play it the way you've played every other game. You don't have to worry about being a murder hobo. We'll take care of that. You're here to tell a story. Tell the story you want to tell. Kind of like how Disco Elysium does it, right? Like I would be surprised if anybody plays Disco Elysium like a min-maxing experience. They're like, oh, right. Okay, well, what kind of weird, crazy psychedelic experience do I want to have, right? Like that's the version that tells. And the Outer Worlds 2 is much closer to that.
Yes.
Than your traditional min-maxing experience. But then don't tell me that I can't use this elevator unless I also happen to be an engineer, because my version of my character is not an engineer.
Yeah.
And so here I am struggling with the map, trying to get to point A to point B, and the game last dialogue was telling me that I couldn't engage with the chemist because I'm not a chemist. Fine, I don't want to be a chemist. But now it's telling me I can't get up that mountain because I'm not an engineer. And I'm like, well, wait, what?
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting in Disco Elysium how when you fail skill checks, it's still fun. Like, something interesting will happen. Versus Outer Worlds 2, I mean, you don't have the opportunity to fail a skill check. You just can't do the thing, and you need to find another way to do it. Sometimes that way is easy to figure out, and sometimes it's, well, I know I need to get up there. I know this would bring me there, but I can't do this, so how do I get up there?
I mean, the way that I would characterize it, to sort of summarize the entire experience, is it is just replete with texture. There's texture all over the place. But sometimes that texture feels empty, and sometimes that texture feels restrictive. When it works, it's great.
Yeah.
And I really wish that I'd started the Outer Worlds 2 with a better sense of you are not playing an Elder Scrolls game. Because I play most Obsidian games like an Elder Scrolls game, and it shakes out more or less the same, just usually with slightly better writing. But the Outer Worlds 2 throws a bit of a curveball to that. Because it really does benefit, as you say, from approaching it as a role-playing experience. Think of the kind of person you want to be, of the role you want to inhabit, and the rest will take care of itself, and you will solve problems the way a character like that would solve it. Now, is everyone going to have to engage in combat? Yes.
Yeah.
This doesn't go to the absurd lengths of Deus Ex or games like that, where you can convince the final boss with a dialogue check that maybe you need to be able to allow through, right? There's a little bit of that, but not to the same extent. But honestly, so many things give you combat bonuses. Do you want your speech skill to give you combat bonuses? There's a perk for that. Go to town. It's fine. It'll take care of itself. So I feel like my first few hours were just completely wasted. And I had to, once I internalized all this, I felt like I had to start again.
Yeah, so I didn't do that, but I absolutely understand the drive to do so. And in fact, I did end up, so I reached the end of the first planet and hit a major story point where I could not get the outcome I wanted because I needed 2 more skill points.
Yep.
And I couldn't level up because I was trapped in a room. So I reloaded to before all of that, and I went and I looked around for anything I could do to gain more levels.
Yep.
And then I did it over. And that sucked, but that was also, like, I was not willing to go through with either of the outcomes that were open to me. And I'm afraid that's going to happen again, and I'm going to be far enough into the Outer Worlds too that I'm not going to be willing to, reload anything. Because maybe I would have to reload back to Act 1, but I think that's okay, too. Again, you're playing a role. Your character couldn't necessarily pull off everything that they would need to pull off in order to get the best possible outcome.
Other than death in combat, the Outer Worlds 2 does a better job of making failure part of the story than most other games of its ilk, right?
Yeah.
I had occasion to think about this in the context of tabletop role-playing games. Because one of the big differences, there are a million differences, but one of the big differences between bad tabletop role-playing and good tabletop role-playing is, what is the role of failure, right? Are you playing a power fantasy where every failed skill check is an obstacle to the story progressing? Or are you playing a story where every failed skill check is grist for how the story develops?
Yeah.
And I was reminded of this actually in the context of a Tech2E video about role-playing, where he sets out like a hypothetical scenario where a lot of skill checks are failed, because that's the way things happen. And nonetheless, they cause the story to progress. And that's important. And video games don't tend to do that. Usually failure means something doesn't happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to interesting grist for the story. So I gained a new appreciation for how the Outer Worlds 2 wanted me to play. I just felt like it had caused me to have some wasted hours at the beginning.
Yes, I would have appreciated almost like a, hey, this is how it's going to go message at the beginning of Outer Worlds 2.
Yeah, this really would have benefited from something like that in the game, or I really would have benefited from something like listening to this review or reading one of those clickbaity articles, 5 things you need to know before starting your play of Outer Worlds 2. I really wish I'd had something like that. I also feel that way, not just for the mechanisms, but also for the story, because it's very faction dependent. It's a lot about what the factions are doing. And for the love of all things good and holy, what possessed them to have 2 factions called the Directorate and the Protectorate? What is wrong with them? I'm serious. That's bad writing. That was okay. Part of it is, I think, they're trying to basically say that they're kind of sort of in some ways 2 sides of the same coin. Fine. Okay, maybe. I don't think they pull that off. They present one of them as kind of sort of more or less the good guys, and another one is a complete fascist totalitarian nightmare. But anyway, like the first little while, I was having such a hard time, not just with the Order, like there's the Order, the Protectorate, the Directorate, and they're doing all these things. Auntie's Choice, no problem. That's straightforward. Company, they want to do company things. Okay, cool. But as a result of my not being able to process or remember the very real differences between the different factions, it also meant all the other proper nouns kind of fell by the wayside too. I was having such a hard time remembering what any of these people were and how they fit in the overall world until I could finally get the difference between the Directorate and the Protectorate in my head. And it's not like I wasn't paying attention. I was reading this crap. I just couldn't retain it.
Yeah.
I take it you did not have that problem.
So, I'm actually, so you said Directorate. It's the Earth, was it Earth Directorate and the Protectorate? Or are you talking about the Order of the...
See? Okay, good. I'm glad. Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one then. Yes, it's the Earth Directorate that is frequently just called the Directorate.
Okay.
And then there is the cultish totalitarian nightmare called the Protectorate.
Yes.
And then there's the Order, which is the religious group obsessed with math.
Yes. Who broke off from the Protectorate.
Correct. And so you have these instances where X took Y from Z, and it's a whole thing. I had a serious time. I had a serious difficulty just understanding my opening, like, half dozen to a dozen quests. I was just wandering around looking for waypoints, killing anything that happened to be there. Again, I was playing it like an Elder Scrolls game. And the Outer Worlds 2 is not a very good Elder Scrolls game. What the Outer Worlds 2 is its own beast, and it just took me so long to grapple with it. And I think some of that responsibility lies with the Outer Worlds 2.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I would say that I probably fully internalized, the Order versus the Protectorate when I got to the second planet.
Sure.
Because the first one did not do that for me at all. The Order was mentioned a few times. I was like, who are those people? I don't know, like, something about math. Who cares about math?
They do. A lot.
They care a lot. So much, in fact.
So I remembered some things from the Outer Worlds 1, like the emphasis on companions, about how you always have a couple people following you around. And unlike a lot of other companions in RPGs, they pull their weight and have their own stats. And again, just a part of the great texture of the Outer Worlds 2, they speak up a lot more than other companions do. And what I thought was a really interesting move that I'm surprised other games haven't done before, very frequently the dialogue option that I would take is just to shut up and let my companion finish their thought.
Yeah.
Like they join the conversation, they say something, and then often you can like correct them or side with somebody else or side with them or back them up or just shut up and let them speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And much of the time I'm like, why don't other games let me do this?
Yeah, it's like if this guy is, guy A knows guy B, why am I even trying to butt into this conversation? Just let them do it.
Yeah. And so again, when taken on its own terms, and a lot of this is my fault, some of this is the Outer Worlds 2 fault, it is very different from a lot of the things of its ilk.
Yeah.
This is finally making me start to appreciate why people talk about, New Vegas as being so much better than the other Fallout games. I never thought it was. I thought it was good. I thought it was great. I played the game.
Yeah.
It was buggy as all get out, but I enjoyed it. I didn't think that it was different in kind from Fallout 3 necessarily. But see, this really feels to me like Obsidian is finally flexing its own kind of vision.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't like it, and sometimes I wasn't ready for it, but it's definitely interesting and different, that's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that the Outer Worlds 2 is making me feel that others haven't done as much is, like, I want to know what would happen if I came into the story with different skills. What kind of things would happen? I haven't finished my first playthrough yet, so we'll see. But so far, I genuinely have been having a lot of fun. I find combat to be quite difficult. I don't know if I'm doing... Okay, part of it's my own fault, because I picked the sickly flaw, so I have less health than you normally would, and I forget, there was two downsides to sickly, but one of them's definitely less health. I haven't picked any combat skills. I put a lot of points into speech, so I do extra damage to humans, but I don't have any points in combat skills, so it's obvious why I'm not good at it. And in fact, I actually got I got a flaw last night. I think the flaw system is very cool, and I've rejected almost all of them, but I accepted this one because my flaw was that I tend to hang back and let my companions do stuff.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, so you will do 10% less damage personally, but if you hit something that one of your companions has recently hit, you will do an extra 25%. I was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Oh, also, I've been mostly playing melee, which also doesn't go so well with the low health.
No! Caitlin, no! Get yourself a nice gun.
Yeah,
and stay away from the bad people.
I feel like I'm having such a hard time with the guns. Maybe I just don't have a good gun right now, but I'm trying to like aim at things that are far away. I don't have a scope on it. I don't know. The crafting is definitely not something that I've gotten into very much, despite there being a lot of crafting opportunities. So I wonder if that can also be part of my difficulty, because I just don't care to mod all my stuff.
Honestly, the gunplay is one area where the Outer Worlds 2 feels just like every other Bethesda game. Yeah. It's functional, not particularly satisfying. The starting weapons are garbage, and so the experience is garbage. Well, no, I mean, look, there is a way to make weak guns feel satisfying.
Yeah.
Again, games like Destiny and Halo do it very well. You don't have to make the character overpowered to make gunplay feel good. And it's just a lot of these games, that's not where their emphasis is, and I completely understand. But consequently, it's just, the combat in Outer Worlds 2 is, it's only made interesting by virtue of your companions. Yeah. And, I mean, sometimes the gonzo creature design helps, but it's not particularly fun. I agree.
I have really been enjoying the companions. I recruited the last one last night, so now I have a full group. I think that they're all quite unique. I met who might be my favorite one when I was playing yesterday. And I like them a lot. I like that they speak up. They each have their own faction, and I guess there's points in the story where if you make a certain decision, they might decide to leave, which is fair. And I don't know, it's nice to have companions that speak up and will make their own decisions, as opposed to like Veilguard, where you are making the biggest choice of their lives at the end.
Yeah, I'd have to say that although the companion system is a great one and they're really quite good, I don't know that the companions are as compelling as, say, Avowed. I don't think they quite reach that level. They're not as personally interesting. They are personally interesting, and they're pretty fleshed out. But I have to say that they serve more as background elements to how the Outer Worlds 2 is a fully textured world, rather than individual characters that I become obsessed with, like in Avowed or even in Dispatch, or sometimes in your better BioWare games. But yes, they did do a very, very good job of having them articulate the values of the individual factions to which they are, at least in background, loyal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing as Outer Worlds 2 progresses, and I don't know, I have no idea, absolutely no concept whatsoever about how far I am through Outer Worlds 2. But I am interested to see if any of them will ever take on some of the main character's values. Like, I've been playing my main character as somebody who has become pretty disillusioned with the Earth Directorate after the events of the opening. And,
Sure.
you get a little bit of pushback from the one Earth Directorate guy who's still hanging around. And I think that's cool. I'm really interested in seeing if each of the companions has like a fully fleshed out story arc, or if they just exist to bounce stuff off of the main character.
So you've been playing on PC, right?
Yes.
Have you encountered any technical issues?
Actually, only one, which is that the Auntie's Choice companion has a constant, like, I want to talk to you marker over her head that won't go away despite the fact that we have nothing to talk about.
Huh.
I take it you have not had that experience.
I've had a bunch of minor issues wherever I've played The Outer Worlds 2. So this is one of those things, we haven't really talked about it before, but it really is one of those rare moments where contemporary technology feels a little bit like magic. There is full cross-save compatibility between my Xbox console and my PC for The Outer Worlds 2. And that's a small thing, maybe, but it feels like utter magic to be able to pick it up on any kind of different device. And yeah, Microsoft marketing is obnoxious, and I'm not going to say, this is an Xbox, play anywhere. But, at least they're doing something remotely novel. And playing it on the console, it's clear that The Outer Worlds 2 is not very well optimized there. It's also very clear it's not very well optimized on a PC either. So on the console, the frame rate's pretty bad, the pop-up is really bad. And on a PC, it's very, very demanding. And even if you have the necessary specs, it only likes some kind of upscaling as opposed to others. A whole bunch of weird graphical glitches, unless you have the settings tuned just right. It's been a while since I've had to mess around with stuff like that, let me tell you. And on top of that, every once in a while, a new weird bug manifests. Like the past couple times that I've loaded it up, it loads up muted in the in-software volume mixer. So I have to tab out of the game, go to the control panel, and unmute it on a software level.
That's really
I didn't
weird.
tell it to mute itself. I guarantee you, I never told it to be muted, but here we are. And so it's just been a bunch of minor little annoyances. I haven't had anything like a hard crash.
Same.
I will say that, again, comparing it to other Bethesda and other Obsidian games, there's been less sort of floppy physics where a corpse is just doing a herky-jerky at the bottom of while clipping through a floor. There hasn't been much of that. There was one object that continued spinning in midair, but it was noteworthy only because most of the time I don't see crap like that.
Yeah. So there's one other touch that I've been enjoying, and that's when you load up Outer Worlds 2 to continue the game. The Spacer's Choice Moon is there, and he'll, like, make a comment about either where you are.
He's the Auntie's Choice Moon now, but yes.
Well, yes. What you've done recently. And I've seen some really funny ones on Reddit where somebody said that they, like, rage quit, like, Alt F4'd the game and came back, and he was like, oh, we're a little angry, huh? Like, and then, like, somebody else said that their internet was disconnected, and he made some comment about, not being connected to friends, and I think he's delightful. Everything he says makes me smile.
He is. And it's weird because I remember The Outer Worlds 1 being more funny than The Outer Worlds 2 is. Mm-hmm. The Outer Worlds 2 is not... It's not obnoxiously, like, failing to be funny when it tries.
Yeah.
It's just more, like, mannered and quirky than it is humorous. But the Auntie's Choice mascot is 100% pretty funny. Makes me kind of wish that I could have his meta commentary all throughout the game, where I'd, have a conversation with somebody who just chime in like a Greek chorus.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we need. We need a narrator, and it's just that guy.
All right, so that's The Outer Worlds 2. Definitely its own beast, and if you want to take any advice from All My Best Friends Are Digital, have a conception of a character in mind, play to that character, and just accept the consequences, because Outer Worlds 2 is not like other games.
Yep.
So we're going to close things out as we always do with some shameless hyping of upcoming titles. Caitlin, what would you like to shout out for us?
So today I'm going to shout out Starbirds. It describes itself as a relaxing asteroid base building and resource management game. And you're supposed to create production networks and, guide your flock of spacefaring birds to new interstellar horizons. I think the game Starbirds just looks very colorful and pretty. And I'm interested in seeing how it plays.
The moment you said it was called Starbirds, I immediately wanted to know whether the birds were figurative or literal. The birds are very much birds.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's in early access now, which is a bit of a barrier to both of us. as we've made clear before. This is very cartoony base building.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that attracted me to it. Like, it's
Sure.
very cartoony, so many bright colors. So I'm excited by it. And like just the areas, or sorry, that like asteroids that you're building on are small enough that everything kind of seems like comically large. I don't know. I really like the visual style of Starbirds.
Yes, it definitely has its own look. This is not trying to look like Factorio.
Yeah.
And the birds are adorable. Well, on the topic of graphically appealing games, I would like to shout out Alabaster Dawn, which is by Radical Fish. This is the same people that put out Crosscode. Both Crosscode and Alabaster Dawn are kind of 2.5D action RPG-ish type things. And mostly I just really like the 2D graphics of Alabaster Dawn. It looks really cool. The protagonist is very well animated and goes across a lot of cool different kinds of environments. And I don't know, I've been a little bit more sympathetic and interested in sort of Japanese-inspired action RPG-ish or RPG-adjacent type titles lately, and I confess that Alabaster Dawn caught my eye.
It looks really pretty, so I'm also really interested in seeing how this one pans out.
Yeah, it has a demo. I haven't played the demo. I'm a little bit nervous about playing demos before there's a release date, because I don't want to get too excited. So I'm managing my enthusiasm. When and if there's a release date, I'll probably give the demo a try.
Yeah, the whole concept of guiding like the rebirth of humanity kind of reminds me of Soul Blazer a little bit. I have no idea if it actually plays that way at all, but it looks pretty cool.
Well, with that, we're going to close things out. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your spending some time with us on All My Best Friends Are Digital. If you're interested in supporting free and independent media, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/amfad, where you're going to find bonus content. We have been putting out hours of bonus content in the past few weeks. While we're talking about Dispatch, we're going to be having a bonus episode of Hades 2 come out very shortly. And as always, you can find ad-free episodes and our award-eligible newsletter. In any case, again, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach us at allmybestfriendsaredigital@gmail.com. Hope to see you again soon.